I'm Kenny, 28 years old, waking up alone in a hospital room with a pounding headache and tubes everywhere. The silence was deafening. My phone buzzed with a text from Jason. "How are you holding up?" Attached was a screenshot of my brother Derek's Instagram. My parents were smiling on a pristine Maldives beach while I lay broken and alone. The caption read, "Surprise, family vacation." I turned away, tears stinging my eyes. Was this one-sided family relationship worth fighting for anymore? If you're watching this video, let me know where you're viewing from, and hit that subscribe button to follow my journey facing the harsh truth about my family. Growing up in the suburbs of Chicago, my family looked picture perfect from the outside. My father Richard worked as a financial advisor, while my mother Catherine taught at the local elementary school. My brother Derek came along when I was 4 years old, completing what everyone saw as the ideal American family. We lived in a comfortable 2-story house with a backyard big enough for barbecues and birthday parties. My childhood memories are filled with the scent of freshly cut grass in summer and the crunch of autumn leaves beneath my feet as I walked to school. But beneath that perfect veneer, something wasn't quite right. The first signs that Derek received preferential treatment began appearing when I was around 7 years old. At first, they were subtle enough that I could brush them off as coincidences or my own imagination. For Derek's 6th birthday, my parents rented out an entire indoor play center, invited 20 of his friends, and hired a professional magician. A custom-made cake, shaped like a dinosaur, took center stage. The celebration lasted an entire day, ending with Derek opening presents that filled our living room floor. Just 3 months earlier, my birthday had consisted of a simple chocolate cake from the local grocery store and a small gathering of family members in our backyard. When I asked about having a friend over, my mother said, "We need to save money for your school supplies, Kenny." Christmas mornings showed the pattern more clearly. Derek would unwrap the latest gaming console, expensive sports equipment, or designer clothes, while I received practical items like socks, educational books, or art supplies from discount stores. One year I asked Santa for a guitar, having developed a passion for music. Instead, I got a plastic recorder and a how-to-play music book. That same morning, Derek unwrapped a brand new iPad, even though he had broken his previous tablet just weeks before. The disparity extended beyond material things. My parents never missed a single one of Derek's football games. They rearranged their work schedules, canceled appointments, and even left family gatherings early to make sure they could cheer from the sidelines as he played. Meanwhile, when I had piano recitals after joining the school music program, they would often arrive late or miss them entirely. "Your mother had a headache," my father would explain, or "We lost track of time getting Derek from practice." I tried convincing myself that this was all in my head. Maybe Derek just needed more attention. Maybe I was being selfish for wanting equal treatment. These thoughts followed me through elementary school as I pushed myself harder to earn my parents' approval. Academics became my refuge. I studied relentlessly, bringing home straight A's semester after semester. My teachers praised my work ethic and intelligence, but at home, these achievements were acknowledged with brief congratulations, before conversations shifted to Derek's latest accomplishment on the football field. "That's nice, Kenny," my mother would say, patting my shoulder before turning to Derek. "Now, tell us about that touchdown you scored." By middle school, I had developed a strategy to excel at everything. I joined the math club, science olympiad, and debate team. I won competitions and brought home trophies that collected dust on shelves in our basement, while Derek's sports memorabilia occupied prominent places in our living room. High school brought more of the same. When I was accepted into the prestigious statewide honor society, my parents missed the induction ceremony because Derek had a football scrimmage that could determine his starting position. When I won first place in the regional science fair, my father asked if the prize money could help pay for Derek's new football cleats. The most painful memory came on my high school graduation day. As valedictorian, I would be giving a speech to my entire graduating class. I had worked on it for weeks, hoping my parents would finally see my worth. That morning, as I prepared in my cap and gown, my parents informed me they would be running late. "Derek has a date tonight and he needs new shoes. We'll try to make it before your speech," my mother explained. They arrived just as I was walking off the stage, having delivered my address to an audience that didn't include the 2 people I most wanted to impress. That night, as we had dinner at a restaurant, my parents chose, because it was Derek's favorite. I realized a hard truth. No amount of achievement would ever be enough to earn equal standing with my brother in my parents' eyes. When acceptance letters arrived during my senior year of high school, I had options. My perfect GPA and extracurricular activities had earned me scholarships to several prestigious universities. I ultimately chose the University of Michigan, which offered me a full academic scholarship covering tuition and books. It was a proud moment knowing I had earned this opportunity entirely through my own merits. My parents seemed pleased, but concerned about practical matters. "That's quite far from home, Kenny. Who will do your laundry? Are you sure you can handle being on your own?" The same questions weren't asked when Derek later considered colleges much farther away. The scholarship covered tuition and books, but not housing, meals, or other living expenses. When I broached the subject with my parents, my father shifted uncomfortably in his chair. "We've been setting aside college funds, but with the economy the way at Island, we'll help where we can, but you'll need to be responsible for some of your expenses." Later I discovered they had saved nearly $70,000 for Derek's education, but less than $10,000 for mine. Their explanation was that my academic prowess would earn me scholarships, while Derek would need financial support. The logic seemed sound on the surface, but it felt like another way to justify unequal treatment. During my freshman year, I worked 20 hours weekly at the campus bookstore, and as a tutor in the math lab, between classes, studying, and work, I barely had time for a social life. Meanwhile, my parents called regularly to check if I was eating properly or keeping up with my studies. Derek started at Ohio State the following year, but dropped out after just one semester. He claimed college wasn't his thing and moved back home. My parents didn't push him to return or express disappointment. Instead, they converted our basement into an apartment for him and covered his expenses while he figured things out. This arrangement continued as Derek cycled through various part-time jobs, never staying employed for more than a few months at a time. During my sophomore year, I met Jason in my computer science class. We bonded over late-night coding sessions and a shared love for science fiction movies. Through Jason, I met Sarah, an engineering major with a brilliant mind and infectious laugh. For the first time, I found people who appreciated me for exactly who I was. When Thanksgiving approached, I planned to stay on campus. The cost of a flight home seemed wasteful for such a short break. Jason, noticing my situation, invited me to his family's home in Grand Rapids. "My parents always cook enough for an army anyway," he insisted. The Martin family welcomed me, as if I'd always been part of their traditions. Mrs. Martin asked about my studies with genuine interest. Mr. Martin engaged me in conversations about technology and my career aspirations. Jason's younger sisters teased me like they did their own brother. Around their dinner table, I experienced what family support felt like: unconditional and warm. That evening, I received a brief call from my mother. "Happy Thanksgiving, Kenny. Sorry we couldn't get together this year." In the background, I heard laughter and the unmistakable sound of waves. "Where are you?" I asked, confused. After a pause, she admitted they had taken a family trip to Cancun. Derek was feeling stressed after leaving school, and we thought a vacation would help clear his mind. "We'll make it up to you at Christmas, I promise." They didn't. Christmas break found me again at Jason's home, included in their gift exchange and family photos. My parents sent a check for $100 with a generic holiday card signed by all three of them. The pattern continued throughout my college years. Family vacations happened without me. Major decisions were made without my input. When I did visit home during summer breaks, I felt like a guest rather than a family member. Conversations revolved around Derek's latest interests or my parents' activities. During my junior year, I met Rachel in a literature elective I took to fulfill graduation requirements. Smart, artistic, and perceptive, she saw through my carefully constructed facade of self-sufficiency. "You act like you don't need anyone," she observed during our third date, "but your eyes tell a different story." Rachel became my first serious relationship. She encouraged me to acknowledge my feelings about my family instead of burying them. "You deserve better treatment," she would say when I shared stories from home. "Their behavior isn't normal, and it isn't your fault." With Rachel's support and my growing friendship circle, I began recognizing the dysfunctional patterns that had shaped my life. The realization was painful, but necessary. By my senior year, I had stopped making excuses for my parents' behavior and started setting boundaries around my expectations. I graduated from the University of Michigan with highest honors in computer engineering. The ceremony was held on a perfect spring day sunshine, illuminating the historic campus as thousands of graduates and their families celebrated this milestone. In the sea of proud parents, clutching bouquets and cameras, mine were notably absent. They sent a congratulatory email the night before. "So proud of you, Kenny. Sorry we can't make it. Derek has an important job interview tomorrow and needs moral support. We'll celebrate when you're home." The job interview turned out to be for a part-time position at a local sporting goods store, a role Derek would quit within 3 weeks. Meanwhile, I had secured a position as a software engineer at a growing tech company in Seattle. The starting salary was impressive, especially for a new graduate, and the benefits package included relocation assistance. Moving across the country provided both physical and emotional distance from my family situation. Seattle welcomed me with its vibrant tech culture, breathtaking landscapes, and the promise of a fresh start. My apartment was small but modern, located in a lively neighborhood filled with young professionals and eclectic restaurants. Despite the distance, I made consistent efforts to maintain family connections. Every Sunday evening, I called my parents without fail. The conversations followed a predictable pattern: brief inquiries about my work, lengthy updates about Derek's latest endeavors, and general news about neighborhood happenings. I listened attentively as my mother detailed how Derek was finding himself through various short-lived passions, photography 1 month, craft brewing the next. "Your brother has such a creative spirit," my mother would gush. "He's not meant for conventional paths like you are, Kenny." The implications stung. My stability and success were somehow less interesting, less worthy of enthusiasm than Derek's perpetual state of potential. Still, I persisted in my efforts. I sent thoughtful gifts for birthdays and holidays, a gourmet coffee subscription for my father, handcrafted jewelry for my mother, and even custom gaming accessories for Derek. My own birthday passed with a text message from my parents and no acknowledgement from my brother. At work, I channeled my need for validation into professional excellence. My managers noticed my dedication, assigning me to increasingly important projects. Within 18 months, I received my first promotion. By the 3-year mark, I led a small team developing innovative software solutions. My financial situation improved steadily. At 26, I purchased my first home, a charming 2-bedroom house with a view of Mount Rainier on clear days. The achievement felt monumental. I had created this opportunity entirely through my own efforts. Excited to share this milestone, I invited my parents and Derek to visit. "I have a guest room ready," I told them during our weekly call. "Seattle is beautiful in the summer. I could show you around, take you hiking, maybe even up to Vancouver for a weekend." My mother sounded enthusiastic. "That sounds lovely, Kenny. Let me check with your father and Derek about their schedules." But the visit never materialized. First, my father had an important client meeting. Then Derek was starting another new job. Later, my mother developed a fear of flying. Each excuse was delivered with apology, but without any counteroffer or alternative plan. Through these disappointments, Rachel remained my emotional anchor. Our relationship had survived the move to Seattle, with Rachel finding work as a graphic designer at a local agency. We settled into a comfortable routine, building a life that felt meaningful and authentic. But the unresolved family dynamics began affecting our relationship. "You spend so much energy trying to win their approval," Rachel observed after I spent hours searching for the perfect Christmas gifts for my family. "They don't put in even a fraction of that effort for you." Her frustration grew as she witnessed the emotional toll of my one-sided efforts. After 3 years together, Rachel reached her breaking point. "I can't watch you hurt yourself like this anymore," she said during our final conversation as a couple. "You need to decide if you're going to keep chasing their love or start valuing yourself enough to walk away." Our breakup was amicable, but devastating. I lost not only my partner, but also a mirror, reflecting uncomfortable truths about my family situation. The final straw came unexpectedly. Through a Facebook post, I discovered my mother's 50th birthday celebration, an elaborate party attended by extended family members and neighborhood friends. My invitation was conspicuously absent. When I called to ask about the oversight, my father seemed flustered. We didn't think you'd want to fly all the way back for just a weekend, he explained weakly. It wasn't a big deal, just a small gathering. The photos, showing a catered event with nearly 50 guests, told a different story. More telling was the professionally printed banner, visible in several images, 50 years of Catherine celebrating with those who matter most. Apparently, I didn't make that list. The morning of the accident began like any other Tuesday. Seattle greeted me with a rare clear sky after a week of persistent rain. I decided to bike to work, enjoying the crisp autumn air and the stunning view of the skyline against the Olympic Mountains. Traffic was light as I navigated the bike lane down 2nd Avenue, mentally preparing for my team's presentation later that morning. I never saw the delivery truck that ran the red light. Witnesses later told police the driver had been looking at his phone. All I remember is a flash of white, a sickening crunch, and then darkness enveloping me like a heavy blanket. I regained consciousness in the ambulance, confused and in excruciating pain. Paramedics moved with urgent efficiency around me, their voices seeming to come from far away as they monitored vital signs and administered medications, multiple fractures, internal bleeding, prep for immediate surgery, one said to another, as my consciousness faded again. The next time I opened my eyes, I was in a hospital room. The sterile white ceiling came into focus slowly, as I became aware of tubes in my nose and arms, and a persistent beeping from nearby machines. A nurse noticed I was awake, and approached with a gentle smile. "Welcome back, Kenny. You've been through quite an ordeal," she explained, checking my vital signs. "Dr. Wilson will be in shortly to discuss your injuries." Dr. Wilson, a serious-looking woman with kind eyes, arrived minutes later with my chart. "You're lucky to be alive, Mr. Parker," she began. "You've sustained multiple injuries, including a broken femur, 3 fractured ribs, a punctured lung, and internal bleeding that required emergency surgery. We've stabilized you, but recovery will take time." The severity of the situation sank in as she outlined the months of physical therapy ahead. My immediate thought was to call my family. Despite our strained relationship, surely a near-death experience would warrant their concern. When the nurse brought my personal belongings, I found my phone had survived the crash with a cracked screen but functional capabilities. There were multiple missed calls and texts from Jason, Sarah, and work colleagues, but nothing from my family. I dialed my father's number, with shaking hands. He answered on the 4th ring, sounding distracted. "Kenny, can I call you back? I'm in the middle of something." "Dad, I'm in the hospital." I interrupted, my voice raspy from the breathing tube that had been removed hours earlier. "I was hit by a truck while biking to work. It's pretty bad." A long pause followed. "Are you going to be okay?" He finally asked, his tone more concerned with the practical answer than expressing emotional support. I explained my injuries as Dr. Wilson had described them. My father listened silently before responding, "That sounds serious. I'll let your mother know. Keep us updated on your progress." The call ended without any mention of them coming to see me. Hours passed. Then days. Jason and Sarah arrived the next morning, having driven through the night from Portland, where they had relocated the previous year. They brought comfort items, handled communication with my workplace, and took shifts staying with me so I wouldn't be alone. On the day of my second surgery to repair my leg, I still hadn't heard back from my parents. Jason hesitated before showing me what he had discovered on social media. "I thought you should see this," he said, reluctantly handing me his phone. Derek's Instagram feed displayed photos posted just 12 hours earlier. My parents and brothers stood smiling on a pristine white beach, cocktails in hand. The caption read, "Surprise family vacation. Mom and Dad decided we all needed some Maldives luxury. Best family ever, blessed family first." The timestamp showed the post was made 2 days after my father learned about my accident. They hadn't booked this trip months ago. It was a spontaneous decision made with full knowledge that I was lying in a hospital bed 3,000 miles away. The betrayal cut deeper than any surgical incision. Hot tears blurred my vision as Jason gently took back his phone. "I'm sorry, man," he said quietly. "You deserve better than this." The physical pain of surgery paled in comparison to the emotional wound this revelation inflicted. As nurses prepared me for the operation, I fought not only the effects of pre-surgical medication, but also the overwhelming sense of abandonment that threatened to drown me. Recovery from the second surgery was brutal. Physical therapy sessions left me drenched in sweat and sometimes tears as I fought to regain mobility. Through it all, my friends formed a rotation of support, bringing meals, helping with daily tasks, and providing crucial emotional encouragement. My team from work organized a schedule to visit, and my manager assured me my position was secure for whenever I could return. A week after discovering the Maldives trip, my mother finally called. Her voice carried the practiced tone of sympathy she used with struggling students. "Kenny, we just heard how serious your accident was. We feel terrible about not being there." The lie was evident. They had known exactly how serious it was. "You decided a beach vacation was more important," I replied flatly. "Now that's not fair," she protested. "We had already booked this trip months ago. We couldn't just cancel everything. You know how difficult it is to get refunds on these packages." Later that day, I asked Sarah, who worked in travel planning, about cancellation policies. For a true family emergency, every reputable travel company offers options, she confirmed. At minimum, they could have postponed without penalty. My suspicions were confirmed when I found the resort on Derek's tagged photos. A quick call to their booking office revealed they had a 72-hour cancellation policy with full refund options for medical emergencies. My parents' reservation had been made just one day before their departure, after they knew about my accident. As I lay in my hospital bed each night, staring at the ceiling and enduring the discomfort of healing bones and surgical wounds, I had ample time to reflect on the pattern of my family relationships. This wasn't an isolated incident, but the most egregious example of a lifelong trend. The hospital physical therapist, Amanda, became an unexpected source of wisdom during this time. "Healing isn't just physical," she observed during a particularly difficult session. "Sometimes, the body recovers faster than the heart." 2 weeks into my hospital stay, a small package arrived from my parents, a generic get well card with their signatures, and a fruit basket from an online delivery service. The card read, "Wishing you a speedy recovery. Love Mom, Dad, and Derek." No personal message, no acknowledgement of their absence, no genuine connection. That night, I made a decision that felt simultaneously heartbreaking and liberating. I would stop expecting my family to be something they clearly were not. The revelation brought both grief and relief. Grief for the family relationship I had always craved, but never had, and relief from the exhausting cycle of hope and disappointment. When I was finally discharged after 3 weeks in the hospital, it was Jason and Sarah who helped me settle into my home, now modified, with temporary accommodations for my limited mobility. They stayed for 2 weeks, ensuring I could manage basic self-care before returning to their lives in Portland, though they called daily to check on me. In their absence, colleagues and neighbors stepped in. My team organized meal deliveries. The elderly couple next door shoveled my walkway when early snow fell. My company arranged for a home health aide to assist with medical needs. Through it all, my family remained distant, occasional texts asking for updates, but no meaningful support. Their absence spoke volumes, and for the first time, I was ready to hear the message. 3 months after the accident, I was making steady progress in my recovery. The wheelchair had given way to crutches, and the constant pain had diminished to manageable discomfort. Physical therapy sessions still dominated my schedule, but I had begun working remotely, part-time, grateful for the mental engagement, after weeks of enforced idleness. The physical healing, however challenging, proved straightforward compared to the emotional recovery process. At Sarah's suggestion, I started seeing Dr. Martin, a therapist specializing in family trauma. Our weekly sessions became a sanctuary, where I could untangle the complex web of emotions surrounding my family relationships. "What you're describing is a clear pattern of favoritism," Dr. Martin observed during our 3rd session. "Parents often have different relationships with each child, but the consistent prioritization of your brother's needs above yours crosses into harmful territory." Dr. Martin's validation of my experiences was both vindicating and painful. For years, I'd questioned my perceptions, wondering if I was overreacting or being overly sensitive. Having a professional confirm the dysfunctional nature of these dynamics removed the burden of self-doubt I'd carried since childhood. "I've spent my entire life trying to earn their approval," I admitted, during one particularly emotional session. Every achievement, every success, it was all to prove I was worthy of the same love they give Derek effortlessly. "And has that strategy worked?" Dr. Martin asked gently. The question hung in the air, its answer obvious yet difficult to accept. "No." I finally responded. "Nothing has ever been enough." This realization marked a turning point. If decades of striving couldn't change their behavior, perhaps it was time to change mine instead. With Dr. Martin's guidance, I began the difficult work of establishing boundaries and redirecting my energy toward relationships that nourished rather than depleted me. Work became a refuge during this period of emotional reconstruction. My company had been exceptionally supportive throughout my recovery, and I channeled my gratitude into professional dedication. When a new project launched requiring specialized skills in artificial intelligence integration, I volunteered despite my still limited work hours. This project introduced me to Melissa, a recently hired data scientist with brilliant analytical skills and a warm laugh that immediately put people at ease. Unlike many in our field, Melissa balanced technical precision with remarkable emotional intelligence. "You push yourself pretty hard," she observed after noticing me working through lunch for the third consecutive day. "The project deadline isn't for 6 weeks. The code will still be there after you eat something." Her genuine concern, free from any ulterior motive, caught me off guard. I was accustomed to performing to prove my worth. Having someone prioritize my well-being over my productivity was a novel experience. As we collaborated on the project, Melissa's presence became a bright spot in my daily routine. Our professional discussions evolved into personal conversations during coffee breaks and team lunches. I found myself sharing parts of my recovery journey, surprised by how easily I opened up to her. Dr. Martin encouraged this connection. "Building new healthy relationships is an essential part of healing," he explained. "It recalibrates your understanding of how people should treat each other." With this professional support, I embarked on an intentional journey of self-discovery. I created a list titled "Things I Want for Myself," activities and goals motivated by personal desire, rather than external validation. Some items were simple: learn to cook Thai food, adopt a pet, read non-technical books for pleasure. Others represented deeper changes: express my needs directly, accept compliments without deflection, cultivate friendships without fear of abandonment. This list became my roadmap for reclaiming agency in my life. I signed up for weekend cooking classes, discovering unexpected joy in creating meals from scratch. I adopted Apollo, a one-eyed cat, from the local shelter, who quickly claimed my lap as his preferred napping spot. I joined a local hiking group, gradually rebuilding my physical strength while forming connections with fellow outdoor enthusiasts. Melissa often joined these new adventures. Her encouragement never felt like the conditional approval I'd sought from my parents. Rather, she celebrated my efforts regardless of outcome. When my first attempt at pad thai resulted in an inedible mess, she laughed alongside me and suggested we order takeout. "Cooking is about the journey, not just the destination," she insisted, as we ate restaurant food at my kitchen counter. Our friendship evolved naturally into something deeper. We moved slowly, both recognizing the importance of building something authentic. Unlike my relationship with Rachel, which had been shadowed by my family issues, my connection with Melissa developed alongside my healing process, benefiting from my growing self-awareness. As November approached, the inevitable holiday question loomed. My parents, who had maintained minimal contact since the accident, sent a text message about Thanksgiving plans. "We're having dinner at 3. Let us know if you'll be joining us. Derek's bringing his new girlfriend." The invitation contained no acknowledgement of my recovery, no offer to help with travel arrangements despite my still limited mobility, no recognition of the emotional distance that had grown between us. It was issued with the same casual expectation that had characterized our relationship for years. I would accommodate their preferences without questioning the imbalance. After discussing the situation with Dr. Martin, I made a decision that felt simultaneously terrifying and liberating. I would not attend Thanksgiving with my family. Instead, I accepted an invitation from Melissa to join her family's celebration. I crafted a polite but direct response to my parents. "Thank you for the invitation, but I won't be able to make it this year. I hope you all enjoy the holiday." The reaction came swiftly in the form of an angry call from my father. "What do you mean you're not coming? It's Thanksgiving. Family should be together on Thanksgiving." The irony of his sudden concern for family togetherness wasn't lost on me. "Dad, I haven't heard from you in weeks. You didn't visit me in the hospital or help with my recovery. I'm making choices that support my healing right now." "This is ridiculous," he sputtered. "You're being selfish and dramatic. Your mother is very upset." "I'm sorry to hear that," I replied, surprised by my own calmness. "But I need to prioritize my well-being right now." After ending the call, I experienced a wave of anxiety, followed by an unexpected sense of peace. For perhaps the first time, I had advocated for my own needs without apology. The text messages that followed painted me as ungrateful, selfish, and vindictive. My mother claimed my absence would ruin the holiday for everyone. Derek accused me of always making everything about yourself. The familiar guilt tactics that had controlled me for years washed over me, but this time their power seemed diminished. With Dr. Martin's encouragement, I composed a lengthy email explaining my perspective. I detailed specific instances of unequal treatment, including the Maldives trip during my hospitalization. I expressed my hurt without accusation, and clarified that my decision wasn't about punishment, but self-preservation. The email went unanswered. Thanksgiving with Melissa's family provided a stark contrast to my previous holiday experiences. Her parents welcomed me warmly interested in my work and recovery without judgment. Her younger brother showed me his college projects, genuinely excited about my technical feedback. Throughout the day, Melissa remained attentive to my comfort, noticing when pain or fatigue began to show on my face and creating space for brief rest periods. That evening, as we drove back to Seattle, Melissa asked, "How are you feeling about your decision?" I considered the question carefully. Sad about what I wish I had, I admitted, but at peace with choosing what I actually need. She reached across the console to squeeze my hand. "That's a pretty profound place to be." As December unfolded, the contrast between my past and present became increasingly evident. Each step toward authentic self-expression reinforced the rightness of my new direction. For the first time in memory, I approached the holiday season without dread, finding unexpected joy in simple pleasures, decorating my home with lights, selecting thoughtful gifts for friends, enjoying seasonal concerts and markets with Melissa. The path wasn't always smooth. Moments of doubt crept in, especially during quiet evenings when memories of childhood Christmases surfaced. But these moments no longer derailed me. Instead, they became opportunities to practice self-compassion, acknowledging the loss, while refusing to minimize my worth. By year's end, physically stronger and emotionally more grounded, I found myself standing at the threshold of a life defined by my own choices rather than reactions to family dynamics. The journey ahead still held challenges, but for the first time I faced them without the crushing weight of seeking approval I would never receive. 6 months after the accident, my physical recovery had progressed remarkably. The limp that had persisted for months gradually disappeared as muscle strength returned. Physical therapy sessions decreased from 3 weekly to 1 maintenance appointment. Dr. Wilson pronounced me officially recovered during my final follow-up visit, though she cautioned that some weather-related discomfort might continue indefinitely. My professional life flourished alongside my physical healing. The AI integration project had been implemented, successfully earning our team recognition throughout the company. My manager had recently approached me about a senior developer position opening in the coming quarter, a promotion that would bring additional responsibilities and a substantial salary increase. Personal developments proved equally positive. Melissa and I had grown increasingly close our relationship, deepening through shared experiences and mutual support. We complemented each other naturally, her spontaneity, balancing my methodical approach, my technical focus, matching her creative vision. Without conscious planning, we had developed a partnership based on respect, affection, and genuine appreciation for each other's unique qualities. This period of rebuilding was occasionally interrupted by brief superficial contact from my family. My mother sent generic holiday cards and birthday texts. My father forwarded articles about technology companies without personal comments. Derek remained completely silent. I responded politely, but briefly, maintaining the boundaries I had established with Dr. Martin's guidance. The relative peace shattered unexpectedly on a Wednesday afternoon in May. I had just finished a meeting when my assistant informed me someone was waiting in the reception area. She says she's your mother, and it's urgent, she explained, looking concerned. Catherine Parker sat primly on a visitor's chair, appearing strangely out of place among the modern tech office decor. She wore a floral dress and pearls her hair, perfectly styled, as always. Seeing her after so many months of distance created a disorienting swirl of emotions, the instinctive comfort of familiarity immediately countered by memories of neglect and disappointment. "Mom," I said, genuine surprise, evident in my voice. "What are you doing in Seattle?" She stood, adjusting her purse strap nervously. "I needed to see you in person. You've been so distant lately. We're worried about you." The conference room provided privacy for what promised to be a difficult conversation. As we settled into adjacent chairs, I noticed subtle signs of aging I hadn't seen before. New lines around her eyes, a slight tremor in her hands as she placed her purse on the table. "Kenny, we need to talk about what's been happening," she began. "You've been acting so strangely since your accident. Not coming home for holidays, barely responding to our messages. Your father and I don't understand what's wrong." The characterization of my behavior as strange, rather than a natural response to their actions, typified the family dynamic that had shaped my life. Always the problem was my reaction rather than their behavior. "Mom," I replied, keeping my voice steady. "I'm not acting strangely. I'm responding to a pattern that became impossible to ignore after my accident." "What pattern?" "We've always supported you." Taking a deep breath, I began the conversation I had rehearsed countless times with Dr. Martin. "When I was hospitalized after nearly dying, you and Dad took Derek on a spontaneous vacation instead of coming to see me." She flinched slightly. "We had already planned that trip." "No, you hadn't," I interrupted gently. "I checked with the resort. You booked it after Dad knew about my accident." My mother's expression shifted from defensive to flustered. "Well, Derek was going through a difficult time. He needed a break from everything. And I needed my family while recovering from life-threatening injuries," I countered. "But that's not just about the Maldives trip. It's about a lifetime of being treated as less important than Derek." What followed was a careful, methodical accounting of moments that had shaped my understanding of my place in the family. I described childhood birthdays and Christmases, with stark disparities in attention and gifts. I recalled academic achievements overlooked, while Derek's minor sports accomplishments were celebrated elaborately. I mentioned college years working multiple jobs while they covered Derek's expenses even after he dropped out. With each example, my mother's denials grew weaker. "You're being oversensitive," she protested. "All children think their siblings get preferential treatment." I anticipated you might say that I acknowledged reaching into my messenger bag. I removed a small notebook weathered from years of use. I started keeping track when I was 14. At first, it was just to prove to myself I wasn't imagining things. The notebook contained meticulous records, Christmas gifts listed with approximate values, hours spent at Derek's activities versus mine, occasions when family plans changed to accommodate Derek's preferences. Most damning were the financial records, my college savings versus Derek's money spent on his failed ventures, the cost of the Maldives trip booked while I lay in a hospital bed. As my mother flipped through pages of a teenager's increasingly neat handwriting, developing into an adult's precise record-keeping, her face paled. "Why would you track all this? It seems so calculated." "Because I was constantly told my perceptions were wrong," I explained. "This was the only way I could verify what I was experiencing." The evidence was difficult to dismiss. Columns of numbers and dates told a story more powerful than any emotional appeal could have achieved. Decades of systematic favoritism, documented in my careful script, not isolated incidents, but a consistent pattern spanning my entire life. "I never realized." She began, her voice trailing off. "I'm not showing you this to make you feel guilty," I clarified. "I just need you to understand why I've created some distance. Every time I reached out, I ended up hurt again. At some point, self-preservation had to take priority." We sat in silence as she continued examining the notebook. Finally, she closed it and pushed it back toward me. "What do you want from us now, Kenny?" The question surprised me with its directness. "I think we all need time." I replied honestly. "I'm not cutting you out of my life permanently, but I need space to heal from more than just physical injuries. And I need acknowledgement that what happened was real, not something I imagined or exaggerated." My mother nodded slowly, her usual certainty notably absent. "I should probably talk to your father about all this," she said finally. "We never intended. We didn't think." "I know you didn't intentionally set out to hurt me," I assured her. "But impact matters more than intention sometimes." After she left promising to process everything, I felt strangely hollow, neither triumphant nor devastated. The confrontation I had feared for so long had finally occurred, and while resolution remained uncertain, I had spoken my truth without anger or accusation. 2 days later, my father called. His voice lacked its usual authoritative tone. "Your mother showed me your notebook," he began, without preamble, "and we've been talking a lot." What followed was unprecedented, my father acknowledging specific instances where he had prioritized Derek over me. "I never saw it as favoritism," he admitted. "Derek always seemed to need more help, more support. You were so self-sufficient, so capable." "Being capable doesn't mean I didn't need support," I pointed out. "It just meant I learned to stop asking for it." The conversation progressed to revelations about Derek's ongoing struggles. "He's been in serious debt for years," my father confessed. "Gambling mostly. We've bailed him out repeatedly, hoping each time would be the last. That Maldives trip, it was after we paid off another $20,000 of his poker debts. We thought getting him away might help break the cycle." While this explanation provided context, it didn't justify their choices. "I understand wanting to help him," I acknowledged, "but consistently sacrificing one child's needs for another's isn't healthy for anyone. Not for you, not for Derek, and certainly not for me." My father sighed heavily. "You're right. We've enabled his problems while taking your stability for granted." After a pause, he asked tentatively, "Do you think we could start over somehow? Find a better way forward?" The question triggered complex emotions, hope immediately tempered by caution. "Not start over," I clarified. "We can't erase the past. But maybe we can build something new that acknowledges what happened and works differently moving forward." "What would that look like to you?" he asked. "Honestly, I'm not entirely sure yet," I admitted. "I need time to think about what kind of relationship would be healthy for me. And you and Mom might need some time to consider whether you're truly ready for changes." The conversation ended with an unusual sense of open possibility, rather than the familiar pattern of unmet expectations. No promises were made, no immediate reconciliation attempted. Instead, we agreed to continue communicating honestly while respecting newly established boundaries. In the weeks that followed, tentative texts from my parents evolved into occasional phone calls, characterized by greater authenticity than our interactions had shown in years. My mother mentioned they had started seeing a family therapist, learning about favoritism and its long-term impacts. My father sent an article about adult-children estrangement, with the simple message, "Trying to understand better." These small gestures indicated effort I hadn't previously witnessed. Still, I maintained protective boundaries, sharing limited personal information and declining an immediate invitation to visit Chicago. Meanwhile, Melissa and I had been discussing vacation plans. Europe in November would be less crowded. She suggested one evening, as we browsed travel websites. We could do London-Paris, and maybe Barcelona before Thanksgiving. The timing wasn't coincidental. We both recognized that scheduling a significant trip during the holiday would help cement my commitment to prioritizing my well-being over family obligations that might trigger old patterns. When I mentioned our travel plans during a call with my mother, her response surprised me. Rather than guilt or manipulation, she simply asked about our itinerary and recommended Paris museums from a trip she'd taken years earlier. "That sounds wonderful, Kenny. Send pictures when you can." This small moment of normalcy, a parent supporting an adult child's independent choices, felt remarkably healing. Derek eventually contacted me after months of silence. His message vibrated with defensive energy. "Everyone's acting like I'm the bad guy in some family drama. Not my fault you've always been jealous of me." I considered ignoring the provocation, but instead replied with calm directness, "This isn't about blaming you, Derek. It's about recognizing unhealthy patterns that have hurt all of us in different ways. I'm working on my part of it. That's all I can control. His response came days later, shorter, but notably less hostile. Whatever. Mom and Dad are making me see their therapist too. It's annoying, but maybe not totally useless. It wasn't an apology, or even a genuine connection, but it represented movement from complete denial toward grudging acknowledgement, a small shift that might eventually lead to more significant change. As Thanksgiving approached, Melissa and I finalized our European itinerary. The trip represented more than just vacation. It symbolized my commitment to creating a life based on conscious choices rather than obligation and guilt. The night before our departure, I received an unexpected package. Inside was a leather-bound travel journal with a note in my mother's handwriting for recording new memories. Wishing you both a wonderful adventure. Love, Mom and Dad. The gift acknowledged my choices, without attempting to change them, perhaps the most meaningful present they had ever given me. 1 year after the accident that nearly took my life, I stood at the large windows of my Seattle home, watching autumn leaves dance across the backyard. Physical reminders of that day remained: occasional stiffness in my leg during cold weather, a thin scar across my abdomen from emergency surgery, but these external markers paled in comparison to the internal transformation the past 12 months had brought. My recovery journey had expanded far beyond physical healing. What began as rehabilitation of broken bones evolved into reconstruction of my understanding of family love and self-worth. The painful recognition of lifelong patterns had created space for authentic connections based on mutual respect rather than obligation or performance. The most significant change manifested in my daily life with Melissa, who had moved in 3 months earlier. Our relationship flourished through open communication and genuine partnership. Unlike my previous relationships, shadowed by unresolved family dynamics, this connection thrived in the sunlight of self-awareness and emotional honesty. What do you think about looking at engagement rings this weekend? Melissa had asked casually the previous evening over dinner. The question sparked joy rather than anxiety, a readiness to commit based on genuine compatibility rather than fear of abandonment or need for validation. Professional success continued alongside personal growth. The senior developer promotion had materialized, bringing new challenges and opportunities. More importantly, I had learned to value my work appropriately, taking pride in achievements without seeking external validation for my worth. My friendship circle had deepened and expanded. Jason and Sarah remained constants, now godparents to their first child. New connections formed through shared interests rather than proximity or convenience. Weekly game nights, monthly hiking excursions, and volunteer work at a youth coding program created community that felt authentic and sustaining. Relations with my family progressed in small, meaningful increments. 3 months after our confrontation, a thick envelope arrived, containing a handwritten letter from my mother. Unlike previous communications focused on surface pleasantries, this correspondence delved into difficult truths. After much reflection and many uncomfortable therapy sessions, she wrote, "I've come to recognize patterns I was blind to for decades. Your father and I failed to provide the emotional support and recognition you deserved. We rationalized our behavior by telling ourselves you were the strong one who didn't need what Derek did. In doing so, we denied you the fundamental right to equal consideration in our family." The letter continued, with specific acknowledgments of pivotal moments, missed performances, overlooked achievements, and most painfully, their absence during my hospitalization. "There is no adequate excuse for not being there when you needed us most," she admitted. "That failure represents our greatest regret, one we must live with, knowing we cannot undo the hurt it caused." Most significantly, she took full responsibility rather than offering justifications. "While we hope for your forgiveness, eventually we understand that reconciliation must happen on your terms and timeline. We are committed to respecting your boundaries, while demonstrating through consistent actions, not just words, that we recognize our failures, and are working to become the parents you always deserved." The letter concluded with an invitation without pressure. "When and if you feel ready, we would welcome the opportunity to rebuild our relationship on healthier foundations." After careful consideration and discussion with Dr. Martin, I called my mother for the first meaningful conversation we'd had in nearly a year. Though initially awkward, the exchange gradually found a rhythm of cautious honesty. "I appreciated your letter," I told her. "It meant a lot to see such clear acknowledgement of specific events rather than general apologies." "Your father and I have been working to understand how our behaviors affected you," she explained. "Our therapist suggested we each write down memories from family events, from our perspectives, then compare notes. The discrepancies were illuminating. We talked for nearly an hour, touching on difficult subjects, without the defensive reactions that had previously characterized our interactions. No miraculous healing occurred, but bridges began forming across the chasm years of inequality had created." Similar conversations with my father followed. His natural reticence made emotional discussions challenging, but his efforts at genuine connection were evident. "I always saw myself as a good provider," he admitted during one call. "I never considered that financial support without emotional investment wasn't enough." Even Derek showed subtle signs of growth. His initial hostility gradually softened into awkward attempts at normal sibling interaction. "Got promoted at work," he texted randomly one day. "First time I've stuck with something long enough to move up. Feels different than just getting bailed out." These small developments, while encouraging, didn't erase decades of established patterns. I maintained careful boundaries, engaging with my family on my terms, rather than defaulting to childhood roles of accommodator and peacekeeper. When I suggested meeting in person after months of phone conversations and text exchanges, I proposed neutral territory, a weekend in San Francisco, rather than returning to the family home in Chicago. "I'd like Melissa to join us," I added. "She's an important part of my life, and I want you to know her." The carefully planned dinner at a waterfront restaurant marked our first in-person reunion since before my accident. Initial moments of strained conversation gradually yielded to more natural interaction, as we navigated this new territory together. My parents made genuine efforts to engage with Melissa, asking thoughtful questions about her work and interests, without the interrogative tone they had used with previous partners. Most telling was their behavior toward me: attentive, without hovering, interested, without judgment. When I described a challenging work project, they listened completely, before responding, a contrast to previous conversations, where my achievements served merely as brief interludes between discussions of Derek's latest ventures. Derek's participation in this family reconfiguration proved most surprising. "The therapist says I need to acknowledge how I benefited from the favoritism," he stated bluntly during dessert. "So, yeah. I probably got away with a lot of crap I shouldn't have. And you got stuck being the good kid, while I got to mess up constantly." The acknowledgement, though awkwardly delivered, represented significant progress. "Thanks for saying that," I responded simply. "It helps." As coffee was served, my mother reached across the table to touch my hand briefly. "We're trying to learn how to be better parents to adult children," she said. "We know we can't change the past, but we hope we can create something healthier moving forward." "That's all any of us can do," I replied. "Keep moving forward, hopefully, with more awareness than before." The weekend concluded without dramatic revelations or emotional breakdowns. Just ordinary moments of connection, interspersed with occasional tension when old patterns threatened to resurface. Perfect resolution remained elusive, but the foundation for something new had been established. Back in Seattle, reflecting on the family gathering, I recognized a profound truth. The genuine healing began, not when my family changed their behavior, but when I changed mine. By establishing boundaries, speaking my truth without seeking approval, and creating a life based on authentic connections rather than obligation, I had disrupted patterns that had persisted for decades. True love, I realized, requires both respect and equity. Relationships without these elements may provide connection, but they cannot offer the genuine belonging all humans need. My journey taught me that sometimes standing up for your worth isn't just an act of self-preservation, it's an opportunity for transformation that benefits everyone involved. The path forward would undoubtedly include setbacks and old habits resurfacing. Family dynamics established over decades don't change permanently through single conversations or momentary insights. But armed with self-awareness, professional support, and genuine connections with people who valued me completely, I faced this uncertain future with unprecedented confidence. Sometimes the greatest act of love, both for yourself and others, is refusing to participate in dynamics that diminish anyone's humanity. By choosing to value myself enough to establish boundaries, I had created the possibility for authentic relationships based on mutual respect rather than obligation or performance. Perhaps the most valuable lesson emerged from this painful journey. Sometimes you must be willing to lose what you thought you needed to discover what you truly deserve. The fear of losing family connection had kept me trapped in harmful patterns for decades. Only by facing that fear and prioritizing my well-being could I create space for either healing the old relationship or building something entirely new. As the autumn sun set beyond the Olympic Mountains, casting golden light across my living room, where Melissa sat reading, while Apollo purred contentedly in her lap, I felt a profound sense of peace. The road had been painful, but it had led me exactly where I needed to be. Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with family members for your own well-being? Share your experience in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more stories about reclaiming your worth and building healthier relationships. Remember, sometimes the most difficult decisions lead to the greatest healing. Thank you for listening to my journey, and I wish you strength in your own path toward authentic connection.